Media coverage was particularly interesting regarding former President Donald J. Trump. And I'll tell you the good, the bad, and what's next for Donald Trump in the New York hush money case. Coming up in just a moment, I'm attorney Ethan Bearman. And look, in my previous video, we talked about the gag order that Judge Merchan issued in the New York hush money case regarding the $130,000 payment to adult actress Stormy Daniels. But the Sunday news cycle went a little wild with it yesterday. And I actually want to start with this statement that was made on NBC's Meet the Press. Kristen Welker said something that describes the Trump attacks on a judge's family and other unhinged rhetoric as, quote, a reminder that we are covering this election against the backdrop of a deeply divided nation. Watch this.
Meanwhile, this week, the former president stepped up his attacks on the judge and his family in the New York hush money case after that judge imposed a partial gag order on Mr. Trump less than 3 weeks from the April 15th start date in that trial. And now Trump is asserting that none of the trials should, quote, take place during my campaign, falsely calling the criminal proceedings election interference. It is yet another reminder that we are covering this election against the backdrop of a deeply divided nation.
Deeply divided nation. If we're going to talk about facts and reality, it's not just a deeply divided nation. It's, do we believe in one vote for one person in a representative democracy? Remember, we still have the Electoral College, so it's not an actual pure democracy. It's a representative democracy where small states like Wyoming, the least populated state, having 2 senators, the same as the state of California with 40 million people. They also get 1 congressperson, regardless, which represents fewer people than each congressperson in the state of California again. So Wyoming has an outsized leverage when it comes to things like the United States Senate, technically the House of Representatives, and particularly when it comes to voting for president. So is that a deeply divided nation where one state is able to influence, or these small states are able to have more influence than a big state does? And that's just deeply divided, where we have somebody who's attacking our legal system in an effort that I believe to undermine it. And I'm going to explain that a little bit more in a moment. But first, it is really interesting to me what happened late yesterday, March 31st, 2024, on CNN, when a former California Superior Court judge, LaDoris Cordell, was on CNN. And listen to what she had to say.
When he steps across that gag order line, and I do hope it will be expanded, there should be only one response. Bring your toothbrush, Donald Trump, because you're going to sit in a jail cell for a while. There has to be an immediate consequence when he defies a court order. That is a normal response. You cannot have a court system that is subjected to these kinds of threats and intimidation. Nowhere else has this ever happened and gone on without any consequences. And that has to change, and it has to change now.
So she just walked you through what's wrong with this. Trump is undermining or attempting to undermine our entire legal system. Look, she's right. It doesn't appear that Donald Trump yet has violated that gag order from last Tuesday that Judge Merchan issued in the Supreme Court of New York in New York City. And he's towed right to the line. And that's what's so dangerous here is judges, look, here's what's happening with Judge Merchan and every judge in Trump cases right now, and really in general. They don't want the defendant, here it's Donald J. Trump, they don't want the defendant to be able to go to an appeals court and move for a new trial, or at the end of the trial, move for a new trial, have a retrial because the judge moved too quickly to hold him in contempt and put him in jail, which could be argued would prejudice the jury, and therefore there needs to be a new trial. And not just prejudice the jury, but violated their First Amendment rights. So you got to give them a warning. Then we're going to issue an order. And now if he violates the order, so if Judge Merchan is going to extend the order, we're going to find out by attacking his daughter, by attacking other people outside of the scope of that original order, like I said, we discussed yesterday. But we'll put on the screen right now again for you to see who are the specific people named, right? And take a look at that. It's not the judge's daughter who's named in the hush money case. So will he extend the gag order? I don't believe he's going to, because, again, the hearing is coming up on April 15th. Where we're going to get into the trial of this. It's a criminal trial here. And so he's not going to want to delay that further unless there's really a necessary cause. So I'm going to disagree slightly with former California Superior Court Judge LaDoris Cordell here, in that he's not necessarily going to extend the gag order to cover these other additional attacks, because now we're 2 weeks away from the trial. But what he will do is, if he violates it, it is now time to put him in jail. It is now time to say, I've given you the warning, I issued the gag order, you've gone too far. Now, like anybody else in our legal system, I'm going to put you in jail until, it's not even going to be a bond like we've seen in the Letitia James case with the fraud trial in New York. This is going to be one where I have to put you behind bars because you're poisoning the jury pool, you're intimidating witnesses, you're intimidating the court staff, and I have to protect the orderly operation of justice. And that's what a judge has to look at. They want to look at, I don't want to do this trial twice. Prosecutors don't want to do this trial twice. Defense attorneys, in this case, probably want to do the trial twice, because now I can extend it into the election season post-election. When he's elected president, the state can't put him in jail. That's not what's going to happen. Because as a serving president of the United States, we have an issue where we can't put him in state jail while he's president. So that delays it another 4 years for him to do whatever it is. He's made it very clear that he's not interested in things like stopping Vladimir Putin. He's not interested in our democracy. He showed that, I believe, through his actions leading up to January 6th. We're waiting for that case to be heard in Judge Chutkin's courtroom in Washington, D.C. But really, so the good of this that's happened now is Trump has been properly warned. If he steps across the line, Judge Merchan can put him in jail until the trial. The bad that comes out of this is Trump is he is abusing to the limit, absolutely stepping to the edge, pushing our judicial system to its absolute limits of what it was designed to do. And so we're running into these issues where anybody else that's threatening the court the way that Donald Trump is, it sure seems like the judges would have taken stronger action first. But here they have to be so careful because we know it'll get appealed. We know that the issues of the First Amendment are going to be brought up regarding a gag order, and that it's going to be fought all the way to the Supreme Court. So they want to be very, very careful in their approach. So that's kind of the bad, which is oddly also a good thing. We want judges to be very careful about putting people away for what they're talking about. There's a reason our First Amendment is the First Amendment, not the Seventh Amendment to our Constitution, for example. And so what's next? We got to keep an eye on what Trump is going to do. Is he going to actually change? Is he actually going to step across what the gag order has drawn a red line about? Or is Judge Merchan going to change the gag order? Again, my prediction is he's not going to change it. The trial's 2 weeks away unless Donald Trump does something even more egregious, which of course is quite possible. Look, if you like this content, please click that like button below. Make sure to comment. I love reading your comments. And when appropriate, I'll address them. And of course, I really, really want you to subscribe to this channel. Keep your eyes peeled. I can't wait to share the next story here about Donald J. Trump. I am Ethan Bearman, Really Legal on the Really American Network.